Hey everyone, this is Brandon Dewey with the LOCO RICO podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Jorge Hyman. Jorge, how you doing today?
Buenos dias, Brandon. I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Oh, good, dude. I hope we don't offend any Mexicanos out there with our terrible Spanish, man. What do you think? Is that something we would do?
I think they love when the gringos bust out a little bit of Latino culture.
So, dude, have you seen Amazon stock price?
Dude, it tanked, bro. How
Talk
do
to me
you
about
feel?
that.
You want to? Well, I've been talking about it all summer, dude. That the tech sector is a sinking ship, and I would get out of it if I could.
Yeah.
I'm not in it, but people that own it, I would have sold, a good majority of my holdings that uh, a long time ago. It's a
Yep.
little different if you're holding them for long term and you don't care about short term price. But
Sure.
if you're trying to increase your wealth uh, a little bit faster and you're more of a swing trader, I would have got out of the tech sector months ago. I mean, it's very clear that the top for those, it's clear now that the top for those was November, December 2021, and they've just been on a
Yep.
pretty much free fall since. And then I made a video on my channel talking about how Amazon cannot be a profitable company in a high inflation environment, and it's just a matter of time before the information reflects what's going on in the real world. And we saw that on last week when the stock went down 15% in a day.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It was like 14. Well, that was the whole market, and then Amazon specifically went down 7%.
Yeah. I also think it's ironic that Amazon did a 20-to-1 stock split like 3 months ago. And I think, honestly, I think that was purely for the idea that they could open up the network of buyers to be able to purchase one whole share of Amazon. I think that was a big, like, you know, barrier to entry for people who wanted Amazon stock previously. Is before that split, it was about $2,000 a share, and
Yep.
so a lot of people said like, well, why would I invest in it? I don't have $2,000 to buy a whole
Right.
share. Well, they do the 20-to-1 split. Now a share is $100. All of a sudden, you have a whole new market of buyers that are willing to buy this stock. That is, basically they're just a bag holder. They're buying the stock from people who are taking money off the table, and those people who buy it are now going to ride the losses until who knows when. And I think that was a strategic move by who Amazon or whoever.
It was almost like maybe they saw this recession coming, and so they thought, well, right, like no one's going to even at right, if we multiply today's stock price of let's call it 110, let's call it $100 just for easy math,
Hmm.
right? No one's, especially in recession, is going to buy one stock at 2 grand, right? But they will at 100, maybe, right?
Especially a company like Amazon.
Yeah, I mean, because they're going to rebound, right? Eventually, someday. Um, it's interesting we brought up the stock split because on that day, right, we see this peak here in the middle, right? And we had a lot of people anticipating, right? People were buying up, and then it crashed again. And after the
Yeah.
split, people, I think people were making some short sales, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, if we look back almost a year ago, we're hovering at, 3,400 bucks, right? Because I don't know about you, but when I think about miles and kilometers and stuff, right, or inches and centimeters, I always need to convert things to US, right? And it's almost like the same thing here. I always have to multiply it by 20 to because I've had Amazon stock for 5 years, and so I was thinking before the split. So it's like pre-split, right? We multiply this. This is $3,600 a share, right? Like you said it. You said it November, December last year, right? And then we had this really crazy spike here in March. Do you remember what was going on in March here?
I don't remember what was going on. I think that was right when the Fed started to taper, so it's kind of surprising. But I think you had a really big overcorrection on the downside in like February with anticipation of the Federal Reserve coming out super aggressive to fight
Yes.
inflation.
Yep.
And then in that March window, the stock came out and everybody was anticipating stocks to go down then. And typically the market likes to do the opposite of what the average person or
Mhm.
the large percentage of people think. And then the Fed come out and they're not as aggressive as we thought they're going to be on rate hikes. And then also Amazon probably had really good um, quarterly earnings coming out of the new year. Um,
Yeah,
and so
totally different.
probably the stock performed really well when a lot of people were anticipating to go short. And that's kind of the nature of how Wall Street makes their money is they go against the grain. When everybody thinks it's going to go down, it goes up. And it's very difficult
Mhm.
from a non-technical standpoint to pick what the market's going to do. And I think that's what happened, but I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I think that there was some sort of Fed event that seems to be how they want it to be, right? They want the market to be dependent on them and reactive. So I think there was a Fed event, and then yeah, we've just been seeing. If we look at the 5 year, though, I mean, we're trending up, right? We had some skyrocketing in 2020, which was magically right as COVID came out. Suddenly, somehow, the stock went way up.
Yeah,
Huh?
and this
That's
this
weird.
thing called QE, quantitative easing.
Whoa! And then look, wow! After COVID magically went away, the stock went back down. Huh? That's weird.
Hmm.
So, I don't know, man. But I don't know anything. So,
What do
um,
you think happens from here on, though? I mean, we're pretty much back at that
oh
pre-COVID
man,
level on a price
we are.
standpoint.
Yeah.
But is productivity the same as it was? So much has changed. Is it possible that this stock can rebound, or is it going to continue a downtrend, or does it chop sideways? Like, where do you think from here we go now that we're on the other side of this thing that?
Yeah, this massive jump. I think very similar to what we're seeing in things like the rental markets, right? Short-term rental markets. We're seeing no, uh, we're seeing a large decrease in short-term rental bookings. Well, what's going to happen? People are going to have to cough up their full mortgage payment now, right? People bought into the market maybe during COVID. Maybe they thought it was going to go up and up and up, right? That was which is kind of a dumb move, but and it's like a lot of these people bought during the top of all of these, real estate, right? So I think we're going to see massive corrections. And what I mean by the word correction, let's be really specific here. I mean that things are going to return to pre-COVID levels, like you said earlier. Okay, so there's that. That's number one. Number two, though, I think you're going to see anti-corrections, meaning you're going to see. You and I've talked about this. We're going to see the wealth uh, distribution. You're going to see people, the wealth amassing events, right? You're going to see these large companies, BlackRock, things like that. They're going to start absorbing more and more properties. They're going to buy in the dip, right? I mean, that's what you do. So I think you're going to see a correction in terms of pricing, but then I think you're going to see a anti-correction in terms of the wealthy. They're going to keep getting wealthier. By the way, George, you can see my screen, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Cool. Yeah, as far as real estate goes, I think people are going to get laid off or they're going to get moved around or people are going to, yeah, they're going to get laid off. But I don't think we're going to see a lot of jobless or anything like that. I think you're just going to see people move to different lower paying jobs. Another thing I think what happened in the last couple of years was you had more remote work. I mean, I turned remote and we stayed remote. And you're going to see companies like Meta, right? Facebook and Instagram. They've been on a hiring freeze since March and February. Uh, if we look at
Twitter now, look at Twitter.
Twitter now, and what's interesting about those two companies, in my opinion, that's not just financial. I think there's political and cultural components to that, right? So you have Elon, who's maybe he's sort of in the middle, right? Politically, he's sort of progressive, he's sort of conservative, and he's going in there saying, "Yeah, I don't like this culture. It's out." Right? And then you have Meta, who you have guys like me, who are politically conservative, other men on there doing different, like you think of Warrior Poet or some other conservative Facebook group or Facebook following, and their whole group gets canned because somebody talked about going to a shooting range or something, like something dumb, right? And then everyone says, well, see you later, Facebook. And then they stop. And then all of a sudden, hundreds of thousands of people leave. Well, Facebook then cannot attract those various avatars, those different users as advertisers. So guess what? Clothing companies who sell political, conservative clothing stop advertising on Facebook. So it's just a snowball effect. So I think not only financially are people getting out of tech stocks, because tech stocks, as you were kind of saying, you didn't say this, but to me they're almost like fiat, right? Tech stocks are sort of fiat stocks in a way. Yeah, they have actual value and real value, but at the end of the day, tech companies aren't really producing anything other than services, right? They're not producing goods. And so you have that component, and then you have the other components of the political and cultural shifts that we might be seeing, right? Some people who are on the fence might be saying, you know what? They might be pulling up stock charts like this and saying, yeah, well, we were doing great when Trump was here, and then we had COVID, and then now we're back to this. I don't know, dude. I'm voting red. Maybe. I mean, that's me being optimistic and people coming around. But so I think there's a lot of factors here. So my predictions for the next 10 years, because I think I do think everything's on a 10-year cycle, only by design though. By the way, that's just my, it's like the Fed comes out and does some wacky thing, the government comes out and does something funny every 10 years or so for whatever reason. But I think things are going to stay really stagnant for the next 10 years. I don't think we're going to see much. Okay, check this out. Let's go to this here. Let's go to 2018. This is a 5-year. I wish we could see all time. Oh, there it is, all time. Cool. So Amazon pre 2011, which I believe was when AWS was created, by the way, like just Amazon itself, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Look how flat their stock is.
Yeah.
I mean, post AWS, yeah, it's been slowly climbing. Well, here's the thing, man. As more and more companies like Google and Microsoft come out with their cloud computing, I think Amazon's going to have a lot of competition. Yeah, they're ahead of the game, but dude, as time goes on though, these companies are going to just copy paste what Amazon's doing. And so you might see Amazon struggle. I think with the digital age too, look at us. We're sitting here on a podcast today. News sites are going to be hard for to advertise on, so advertising is going to become more spread out. You're going to see more and more. Amazon, I just read an article, Amazon is the #1 advertiser, beating out Google, Yahoo, and several other ad tech companies, even Facebook. Okay, well, that's just for now, right? I think Amazon owns a lot of stuff, but you're going to see a lot of competition. Amazon is still a, tumultuous place to work for. So you're going to see a lot of the talent heading to other places. Places like Datadog or, places like that. So I think you're going to see Amazon, especially with Jeff B exiting, right? And he's really focused on Blue Origin. I think you're going to see Amazon giving up a lot of power in the market, and I think it's going to spread out into other places. So that I was saying all that because you asked what's my prediction. I think for the next 10 years, you're going to see a lot of companies kind of flatline. You're going to see a lot of, when I say the word flatline, I mean they're going to trend down, and they're going to stay that way. My prediction is Amazon's going to stay at 100, $1.20 for the next 5 years. We're not going to see these huge spikes anymore unless they come out with some AWS like thing again, which I just don't think we're going to see that. So there's that. Housing is it's going to correct, man. It's so bloated, that. And so housing's going to correct, and I think you're going to see Colorado slow down, especially. I think a lot of builders are going to start slowing down too, just with this market, and it's the lag time between builders. All the builders, I think, are going to finish off their current housing projects, and then they're going to stop for the next couple of years, and then it's going to take them a couple more years to ramp up. So the next 5 years, Colorado's going to plateau and stay that way for the next 5 years. I think. I don't think we're going to see 10% gains a year like we were. So that just stock. I think everything's going to plateau, man. I don't think we're going to see any huge gains for the next 5 to 7 years. So what's your long-term outlook?
Yeah, I think you're pretty accurate. I think these stocks are going to continue to trend down. I don't think the bottom is in yet. I think a lot of people are talking about this Fed pivot language. I think a lot of people are so accustomed to the stocks dropping lately, and then finally get some good news that they're just like so used to having bad news that in the last couple weeks or basically in the last month of October, stocks have rebounded, and they're kind of delusional. They haven't had any good news in a long time. And so that stimulus of seeing a good month is so much stronger, and a lot of people are thinking psychologically that the worst is over, and that
Mm,
we're gonna continue back on this gravy train of the U.S. stock market, U.S. equities being the number one investment vehicle in the world. And
yeah.
I think that's that's what the the powers that be want the general population to think. And yet again, the market is going to do the opposite. And I think not only do they flatline, but I think we go lower. I think we maybe go back and retouch those levels from the 2007 and 2008 financial crisis. Um, I don't know what specifically numbers would look like, but
Yeah.
historically, that would be a very strong, from a technical analysis standpoint, that would be a very strong level for the stocks to bottom out on. There's no way they could go lower than that. But also a big thing you just mentioned is that hiring freezes are happening, and you also said that you think the Colorado housing builders are going to stop taking on new projects, which that means there's going to be a massive amount of workers that are looking for work. If all of a sudden all the new construction dries up,
Yeah.
I mean, I personally see this just I work in blue collar industry, the amount of, myself included, but the amount of new contractors who have come into the construction space in order to help, satisfy a need in the home building market right
Hmm.
now is astronomical. There's more roofing contractors, there's more electrical contractors, there's more concrete. All of these trades have blown up, but unless the housing market continues to grow, that amount of work that is there and available to be done is going to shrink, and then it's going to make a much tighter market for people who work in those industries, and I think it's going to just put a big bottleneck on construction and the trades. And the only way I think those industries recover is if the government subsidizes
Mm,
labor. Honestly, like you talked about a 10-year cycle, that every year the Fed comes out and does this 10-year thing. I agree. I also think it's twofold. I think we're at the end of a 100-year cycle too. If we look 100 years back,
hmm. Yeah.
we have the Roaring Twenties, where the stock market went absolutely nuts, and then what happened? There was a crazy medical pandemic. You had the Spanish flu in
Yep.
that same time era,
Mhm.
and then 1929, you had the Great Depression started, and unemployment spiked in that period. And the only way that the government could get the job market back up was to subsidize it. So you had a lot of, like, for example, the Hoover Dam was built in a project um, after the Great Depression, and a lot of that was the government spending money to
Yep.
subsidize building infrastructure, and it allowed people to get jobs. But there really wasn't a need for the Hoover Dam in 1929. We weren't in an energy shortage back then. So I think there's a cyclical event going on right now, and I think we're going to go into another. This could be the Greater Depression, and you're going to see unemployment lines like you've never seen before. And a lot of people are going to be hurting for money, for jobs, looking for opportunities. You're going to have the whole labor market flipped on its side, and I think it's a much worse outcome than what you're describing. Um, but who knows? It's anybody's guess.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I heard this great saying recently. The glass is not half full and it's not half empty. it's half filled. And so I'm trying to remain in that space of, what data am I seeing? And yes, there is the past, but I can't predict the future. So I'm trying to predict a future where um it's a kind of right in the middle, right? You're sort of on the bad news side. I think we have some hopefuls, and I'm trying to stay right in the middle of. I think the majority of folks can weather this. I hope. That's my hope, and that's my hope for them. I know I'm going to weather it because I've always been a guy who will find money. I've always been a guy who will make money and do what I need to do. If my job says, you know what, Brandon, yeah, whoever wants to keep their job has to come in the office. Guess what? I'll be driving to the office. If they say, we have hiring freezes and we need to let go some of the bottom performers, go. Well, I've actually already been planning on that because I've been making sure my shit is never late. I'm making sure my performance numbers are up so that in a year or two, if worse comes to worse, they can look at me and say, yeah, let's keep Brandon. Yeah, he hits deadlines, right? So I'm already planning for this. It's kind of the hope for the best, pray for the worst, prepare for the worst sort of a deal. That's what I'm doing. Okay, so let's for another Georgia Fizzles Real podcast. I like how this is going. Let's close it out with another 5 minutes of talking about some positive aspects of this. So let's talk about three things. How do blue collar workers weather this? How do white collar workers weather this? And then what are some mega events that could happen that would actually turn the recession positive, right? So let's start with you. How can blue collar workers, whether they're in the construction industry like yourself, maybe they are a small business owner that's not in construction, maybe they own like a print shop, right, or something, or maybe they own a gun shop or whatever, just whatever blue collar worker, how can a blue collar worker weather this the next 10 years?
I think the most important thing that you can do is, one, you need to have savings put away. You need to have an emergency fund that is
Yep.
built for times like this. That's a given. But as an operator, you need to maintain and nurture the relationships that you have with your customers right now, and don't delay
Mm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
And that maybe mean you're going to call up all of your clientele and see if you can get them on a annual maintenance schedule for a discounted rate. And so they're going to save money, but you're also guaranteeing to lock in a certain amount of work for the next several years. So as a small business, that can be really essential. For the white collar workers, I think the best thing you can do is be as flexible and open as possible to any sort of change. If X amount of people at your company get laid off and your workload all of a sudden doubles overnight, but your salary
Mm.
stays the same.
Yeah.
I think previously in the last year or two, with the Great Resignation, a lot of those workers would have said, "Screw this! I don't deserve this. I'm worth more than this. I'm going to quit and go
Yeah.
work at company X." If the labor market does tighten up and that happens, you as a white collar worker may have to just pick yourself up by your bootstraps and get comfortable being uncomfortable for the next couple months, years, however long it may be,
Yeah.
until we weather this storm. And and to bring it back to a positive note, on the other side of the storm, if that does happen, and you as an employee are able to stick around and prove to your employer that you're reliable, you're consistent, you're
Mm-hmm.
hardworking,
Yep.
once the tides kind of turn and the economy can get back into a place where it can grow, you're going to be the first person that your superiors go to for that
Yes.
promotion. And that's something that really positive can come out of this for somebody who's working in any job, not just white collar. But and a lot of this stuff is just basic stuff as being a good employee.
Right.
It
Yeah.
comes back to do your job, do the best job you can every day, and just be and also be grateful for it. As much as it may suck, just try to practice gratitude.
Yeah, George, you said it good in a coffee chat we had one time, and you said, "Hey, man, people are going to reap what they sow." And I remember you saying that, and I was like, "Yes, they are." Like, I really loved how you said that because it's sort of this. I've always had this like compassion, I guess, or something where I want to save people. I want to like, you know, help people weather these storms or something like that. And you and I had a chat about Noah's Ark, right? And it's like he did what he could, but at the end of the day, he's not gonna like you know he's not gonna handhold, right? He's like, hey guys, the rain's coming, and when it came, he was like, all right, I'm closing the doors, right? So that was that was an interesting chat for me. I think it was really good. I think what you had to say was actually pretty wise. And so with that, it's like I would agree with that for white collar. It's like you can say, hey guys, stop buying frivolous investments, right? Stop buying moonshot, moon coin, right? All the moon coins, things like that, or uh same thing in the white collar. Make sure you meet your deadlines. Make sure you're showing up on time. Make sure you're turning your camera on as a remote worker, right? Make sure you get dressed for work. I mean, these are really little things, but they add up. Like you said, it's just like farming, dude. I have a couple of gardens, and it's like you gotta till the soil in the spring, and then you gotta sow, and then you gotta prune all summer long, and and then you get this, dude. I have 6 bags just from the final harvest of 6 like paper bags of fruits and vegetables. I mean, that's like from 2 3 by 10 gardens. It's tiny gardens, dude, but I tended to them all summer long. And so it's the same thing, right? These are really common things. I think, yeah, start putting savings away, stop buying shit, start getting creative. I think a lot of people though are going to get really dependent on things because I heard this saying from Bedros Keuilian, actually, the Bedros Keuilian show. He said people wake up every day and look at their phones to see what mindset and what thing they should believe for the day. And I was like, yeah, people want to download what program to have for the day instead of thinking for themselves. And that's how I see today's world. People are like, well, what am I going to do? Oh shit, I have too much debt. Oh shit, I have this. What am I going to do? And I think that's where it's going to bite a lot of us. I think a lot of people are capable, but they've been programmed with a dependent mindset, right? And I think that was part of my conspiracy theory that was the part of the last 2 years was uh, installing, if we want to go with the computer programmer mindset, installing a dependent mindset. So last thing, big things that I think could turn this recession into a positive, something magnificent and explosive with crypto. I'm not sure what. Well, maybe we can get into that in a minute. That's number one. Number two, I think something explosive and big with space. Right, we got SpaceX launching satellites. We have Amazon launching Project Kuiper, which is SpaceX's competitor. Right, they want to provide this low Earth orbiting satellites, LEOs, to provide internet satellite that's at pretty decent speeds, right? Talking a few hundred megabits, which is decent. We got all sorts we got the United States Space Force, right? You were talking about the Hoover Dam earlier. I could see the government subsidizing some sort of space project that will bring in blue and white collar workers. So yeah, space, crypto, and that's really it, man. That's all I see. I think the green energy bullshit is closing down here, or at least it's going to plateau because people just don't have the money to invest in it, and nobody gives a shit anymore because it's not politically backed as much as it was a couple years ago when Biden was running. So I think investors don't give a shit, right? Investors don't care about green. They care about, well, they do. They care about green dollars. And so I think that's slowing down. So in me, it's just crypto or space. So those are the two things that can maybe turn this around.
Only time will tell, man. We will have to wait and see.
All right, Jorge. Well, this has been a fantastic episode and discussion here on the Loco Rico podcast. Everyone, you can download Loco Rico on Apple Podcasts as well as YouTube. Check us out there and make sure you get some merch at LocoRicoPodcast.com. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace. Oh, dude.